Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Paranormal Karen Season 2, beginning January 3rd. Yes, I took like 2 weeks off, and I was like, I'm going to rest. Didn't rest at all. But we're back, and I have a great show today. Really quick, you can see me headlining Brad Garrett's Comedy Club, MGM, February 24th through, I think, March 1st. It's a whole week there. Come see me in Vegas. There's a couple other dates. May 16th, I will be in Miami. You can email me for details if you are in that area. I am doing the tarot show in a theater and comedy, and that is the dream. And someone asked me if I wanted to do it in Miami, and I was like, yes. A bunch of other dates coming up. If you can leave me a 5-star review wherever you listen, let's get to it. So, I can't wait. I'm so sorry. I have my guest waiting, but I have to say January's already started out. I'm so excited about the episodes. Diet is next week. I have someone do you know all the alarm over 5G? I have the answer. It is in one crystal, and wait till you hear that episode. Sister Sue is back. So much stuff. And the year hasn't even begun, but you're listening. It's January 3rd. Happy New Year. It's my predictions show. And today, starting us off is my friend Paul Jacek. Paul, how are you?
Hello, Karen. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. You have been doing a ton of readings, haven't you?
I have been. This year was a real watershed for me as my business began to build and following prosperity principles that I'd read but really hadn't used. And it's going to be an amazing 2020 is a really fascinating year. So I'm excited about it.
Me too. And just so people know, Paul was a reader years ago, and then he was doing comedy and other stuff. And then you haven't even been back that long, but it's no surprise to me that your business is now booming. So before we even start, because a lot of my listeners get readings from all the people that I talk about, tell them where they can find you, and then let's get into our promo.
Well, and the reason that I'm reading Miss Karen Rontowski is because of you.
Oh, yeah? Were you like, her reading was
after,
so bad, I better get in business?
No. We were actually talking after doing a set somewhere, and I mentioned about tarot, and you said, well, why aren't you doing it? I remember looking at you, and I had no reason for me not to do it. And you said, you should do that. And so I started again, and you can find me. I have a Paul Jacek Tarot Reader page there on Facebook, and you can also find me at liberateemporium.com.
And spell your last name for folks.
Jacek.
Jacek. We're on cell phones, which are a little funky, so I respelled it for you.
Right.
Okay. So, Paul, give us your predictions for 2020.
Well, 2020, I think, is a pivotal year. And we say that sometimes at all of the New Year festivities. This is going to be a great year. This is a pivotal year. But the energy and astrologically is backing it up. What I mean is this year, I think the theme is let go or be dragged. Mm-hmm. And what that means is we've had a couple of years for people who are everyone's doing the right stuff. No one's doing anything wrong, even those who are doing questionable things. But what this is the time for preparing is over. This is it. Mm-hmm. Here we are. And so we've used up our time in the mess around room. Now, what that means is the stuff that you may have been putting off you may have had the luxury of putting it off, but it's going to come up right in your face. So I see this is the stuff where people are going to be going, I really probably should lose that 5 or 10 pounds. Right. The doctor may enforce that of, you're in a tenuous situation. So it may feel a little pressured for people, but this change was necessary. It's so necessary. So I also see, and I never, ever get interesting information about like the stock market. But as I was in contemplation and in meditation about this, the market fluctuations as we open this new year are going to be a little concerning. Fluctuations, not just a drop. There's just going to be, which then goes into some political stuff. And once again, I rarely do political predictions, but what is happening is the discomfort and the huge contrast that has been illustrated. This now, as I talked about, let go or be dragged. Is you is or is you ain't. So on either side, we're going to find this polarity. So this is going to call people into their own understanding. Quite simply, get witchy, y'all. Find your spirituality.
I love. First of all, I just have to say the statement. Get with it or be dragged. No, wait. What is it? It's
let go or be dragged.
Let go or be dragged. I could not agree with that more. That sounds great. Yeah. So you were saying, so when you see this politically, that like, it's almost the do or die. How do you see that unfolding, or is it good or bad, or
well, I think the contrast is just the momentum that we have built up. You know, this idea of the United States of America, I've seen diminish. And I do see this polarity. And this will also cause people who generally they've been sloppy in their focus and sloppy in their thinking. Me too. I include myself there. This is going to bring into sharp focus. You may have to, change your mind.
Yeah.
And for people that is not an easy thing. I've always done it this way. My family has done it this way. This is how we do it. But this will be a changing point for many people of, well, I don't like that. Yeah. So they're going to have to step away from the herd. It's going to create courage for some people. Are going to have to be more courageous than they planned on. To step away from the herd in this polarity. Because quite simply, I think, and this is not new information, the time on the planet is very late.
Yes, and you know what else? Don't you feel like time is going so fast?
Oh, man. And there's some backup to that. I was listening to scientific folks talking about wave fluctuations in the energy of the planet, and that there has been, I don't know how they measure it, but an increase since about the late 60s, early 70s. So quite simply, the vibration is higher, so things move quicker. It's like the very molecules are vibrating just a hair faster.
Wow, I got to slow that down. I cannot tell you how I feel like. I'll tell you two things about time. That is, I cannot catch up, and I am working hard. I like no matter what I try to do, I can't catch up. Number one, but number two, there's also something about, because here's the thing: I have this great listeners with this podcast. I have a small comedy community. I'm not a good marketer. I do what I can. Something has gone viral, and I do not know what it was. I don't know if it's my dry bar special or something, but in 30 years of comedy, other than this podcast, I didn't get fan mail. I'm getting fan mail, and like 50 people a day want to join tarot card of the day or I hit an algorithm somewhere, and it's almost a lesson to me that I am rushing and trying to do things, yet the universe is taking care of it with stuff I did long ago. Something before is paying off. So you know that feeling in your career when you're like, I got to get this in line and I got to be ready and and it was like, no, the universe is just going to do it when it's going to do it.
Well, that's true. This also I see for the upcoming year. This I wrote down spiritual renaissance. People are going to be, we talked about the polarity, they're going to be pushed to a place where you better grab a hold of something larger, whatever that is for you, because your own human resource may feel tapped out. And for many people here in the land of clocks and calendars, it does seem like we can't get a hold of it. And part of that is the amazing nanotechnology we live with. You know, there was a time, not so very long ago, that once you shut your front room door, unless the TV was on, you were in a calm place.
Yeah.
But we have a thing called our phone that's with us that is constantly reminding you how you're behind.
And everyone wait for in 3 weeks, the episode with Derek Conant from Cosmic Reality. I'm going to teach you how to calm things down.
Oh, good.
Well,
cool.
He is. Yes. Okay. So go ahead. All right. So Paul, I'm done interrupting you. Keep going.
No, I'm having the best time. So that's what we talked about, the massive change, the market fluctuations, and the prep time. So, and then that's not to create more stress. What it is the preparation time is over. So now use what you know. We know so much, but do we put wheels on it? Everyone knows that meditation is good, but are you doing it?
Right.
Everyone knows that maybe white granulated sugar is not a good idea, but have you stopped it? The abundance that we are surrounded with is overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I was such a heavy drinker. I was trying to slow it down for just a minute. So let me just go. I drank to make other people more interesting too. So within this is where get a hold of it, because within that, then we become timeless. And the timeless aspects that we've all heard about of integrity, honesty, purity, love will be more available for you. It's not that they're not available now, but we have to become aware of it. My overall theme for this year for myself, and I pass along to everyone, is focus. What is your focus? It's very hard for me. We're very sophisticated about what's wrong with us. I have ADD. I'm an alcoholic. We're very sophisticated about our diseases, but I don't know how sophisticated we are about the recovery and/or our advancement.
Yes.
And that's what's going to come into play this year.
Well, that's very interesting because, first of all, I'm trying to stop myself and others as labeling. Okay. Once you are labeled with ADHD, you're not conquering it. This is it. This is where I am. This is my label. You're reinforcing it. And also, I was just listening to this guy. I think his name is Gabor Mateo, Gabor, and he was talking about how, especially with addiction, that he goes, he's like, well, why did you? It's a very different way of thinking. It's almost exactly what you're saying. It's not just about treating the addiction; it's about finding why you needed the addiction, and also sort of saying, thank you to the addiction for at least you shielded me for that time or whatever needed. And now I'm ready to move on. And it's very next level. Exactly what you're saying.
Well, and I agree with that. And the fact that I am grateful for my early alcohol education, because I needed that break. I needed it to take me to a place where I could, in fact, recover.
Right.
And thank goodness that descent was very short. So, but I watch people. But here's the deal: the infinite doesn't care. The same energy it takes to manifest a button, you can manifest a castle.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think sometimes it's why people have nervous breakdowns in the olive aisle at the grocery store. There's just too much to choose from.
Yeah.
Why, just give me a couple of choices. But now, when you realize the huge abundance that's available for you, what is the focus? And especially if you live in a metropolitan area, we have a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Could the focus be leading a peaceful, easygoing life? It sometimes feels like we're on the end of a bungee cord.
Yeah.
And finding that calmness. That's why morning meditation, everyone within the sound of our voices, do it. Even if you just sit for a second, get a hold of yourself, because the energies for the next year are going to amp up. And you really will feel like you're in a cotton candy maker.
Wow. Great. Your analogies are fabulous. Fabulous. I'm going to have you on the All Analogy Show. That's great, Paul. Anything else?
Well, I wish everyone great good fortune, massive good health and prosperity, and we'll see you next year, if not before. Right.
All right, Paul, tell them one more time where to find you.
You can find me on Facebook at Paul Jacek, Jacek, Tarot Reader, or at liberateemporium.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, my darling. Talk to you soon.
From my podcast series, Conversations with April Readings is here. How are you, lady?
Hi, Paranormal Karen.
How would you describe what you do?
I'm a psychic medium, animal communicator. I'm also clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsensory.
And clairfun. Don't ever forget that. You're always fun. I get readings from you all the time. I call you when I'm in a pinch. What can someone who is getting their first time reading expect?
I love to start with what I call your psychic inbox, and that's where we get to see spirit messages, energetic pictures, and any information that's actually important for you to know about today that you might not even ask about. It's what brings you to the reading, and it also creates a context for the rest of your reading.
And then?
And then you get to ask any and all specific or general questions about any area or relationship in your life. and we zoom in on that.
That's my favorite part because you are so specific and one of the most accurate readers I've ever been to.
Thank you.
Aprilreadings.com is where anyone can book a reading.
Yes.
And then at April Readings on Instagram.
Yes, definitely follow, like, and share. And my commitment is really that it's fun and that people leave energized and hopefully with a little bit of healing.
And a lot of inspiration.
Thank you, Karen.
All right, folks. Terrie Huberman. You have heard her on my show many times. My buddy. I love being your buddy. You're my buddy too. And you were great on this last year. You were fantastic. And it was so funny because the first thing you were like, I don't know why, something's going on with John Travolta. We're going to hear about John Travolta. Literally a week later, I texted you. I was like, go pick up Us Magazine. And I don't even remember what it was, but he was on the cover and there was something. So it was so great. So I couldn't wait to have you back this year.
Thank you for having me. Actually, what I loved about that is that you pushed me out of my comfort zone because that's something I've never done before.
Oh.
So that was, thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like mine this year, everybody mine are at the end. I probably said that in the beginning. Everybody knows I tape chunky and, like in bits and pieces.
Are you calling me chunky?
I was saying, everybody's like, sometimes I'll put it up wrong and I'll literally get it. Hey, great podcast. Why did 10 minutes of it repeat in the middle? I'm like, oh. So everybody expects. So, 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. You start, because I think 2020 is going to be crazy.
Yes and no. I feel like there's going to be waves. So there's definite waves. So when you asked me to do this, I'm like, okay, what's going to come up? So I just wrote a few things. So what came up for me, the first thing was like entertainment and like celebrities and what's all going on with that.
Which is always a great
Yeah, I actually try and stay away from politics because it's just way too emotional and my ego gets involved and I'm like, I just can't. So I usually just don't even worry about that.
Totally get it.
So I feel like so there's two aspects of celebrities. One, I feel like we're going to start seeing a lot more comebacks from people. So but people are going to be very creative as to how they come back. So one of the awesome ways is like this, not so you can think you're Dancing with the Stars type thing. Yeah. So something along those lines. So we're really going to start seeing people come up with that stuff. And it does feel to me like we're going to get some of these really old school, old timer.
Like me? No.
Girl, you're young. No, but like them doing some types of master classes. Oh. Now that might already start happening because I did see, who is it? Like Steve Martin has one on like a comedy. So I was like, oh, okay, but we might see like Martin Scorsese doing one, he
might, I don't know if he does one.
Oh, maybe he might already have. Well, look at me. Awesome. I did not know that in advance. But that's just one way of how they would do a comeback.
Okay, great.
So it is about them coming back in really, really weird, obscure ways. Like, for example, the other example I just saw the other day was like that E.T. Commercial.
Oh,
with Elliot. So I'm like, oh my God, that's already happening. So I was like, okay. The other thing is I also feel like we're going to start seeing more documentaries on celebrities' awakenings. And their metamorphosis, similar to back in the day when Joe Rogan did his ayahuasca one, but we're going to start seeing it a lot more often, and we're going to start seeing this, so I don't know if you want to call it, not breakthroughs, but and that's the way to get the message out for being more mindful and more conscious. So I do feel like it's going to come out through celebrities.
That's an interesting thing because people kind of hate Hollywood, but there is something that happens here, which is, number one, Hollywood is the way that, they put a couple of gay characters on and then more gay characters. And then all of a sudden the world of the United States, which was very, when I was growing up, it was different.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden everybody's okay with it.
And it's fine.
And that's what some of Hollywood's job. That's why at one point people were probably like, why are they forcing that on us? And now it's like, oh yeah, everybody's a person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look what Ellen did,
Yeah. And also, I think with paranormal stuff, they do that.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of that's the umbrella of all this. I'll add paranormal stuff to that as well. It's interesting because Disney came up, and it's not just because I'm such a huge fan. I love Disney, but I feel like they're going to get a ding of some sort in 2020. I don't know what it is, like maybe for being a monopoly of some sort. I don't know what specifically, but I feel like there might be some sort of governmental something going on with them. Like now they have to be watched, or they have to be tracked, or they have to, whatever it is.
A scandalish, maybe?
Maybe scandal, just something not so good. Poor Disney's gonna get dinged.
Well, you know what? I have to say, I'm a little bit happy to hear that. And not because I don't like Disney or anything to do with it, because I do.
Sure.
But I feel like I am getting so anti-corporation.
Well, that could be it. Well, they represent like ultimate corporation. I mean, I'm sure there's other companies too, but yeah, that's kind of like where the lesson would be. But it does feel like it shows up as Disney. Now, maybe I'm wrong. You never know, but something along those lines. Yeah. And in fashion, which is like fashion's coming up. What? WTF, Terry? WTF. But like fashion models in print and runway, plus size and really large, like obesity is really going to like kind of skyrocket up.
Good.
Yeah. And it's going to be more like, again, if we want to piggyback on this consciousness, this mindful and awareness of like, there is no such thing as perfectionism. So like, plus size fashion is going to become a lot more popular. You're going to start seeing a lot of these high-end designers making larger clothes for people, because if you think about it, they're really missing the mark on a huge part of the market.
So much. When people are buying clothes that don't look like what it's on that little tiny person.
Yeah.
And also, you know what else? I really think with the right thing, we're all gorgeous. But there are some gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I knew a girl that was a plus size model. And this was a long time ago, but I think she'd be more normal now.
Probably.
But she said she loved it. She said she would just eat all day. You know what I mean? To keep her weight up.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done, because even a plus size model is probably your average size American woman.
Yes. And of course, you're going to have the idiots. We're moving out of the patriarchy into the matriarchy, and they're going to have the idiots that are going to make fun or say something crappy.
But also, hopefully, those guys are going to come out who are like, ooh, I like a thick waist. Yes. Or I like a tush. I want to hold something,
there's a lot more of those.
Yeah, I'd like to find them. Hi, guys.
There's a lot more of those.
Yeah. So I feel like that's going to be like a really big thing coming in 2020. In finances, I really feel like we're going to start seeing a huge upswing in entrepreneurship and small business.
Good.
Yes. So people are going to be like, when I say people, I mean consumers. They're going to be more, what's the word? Not proactive, but more, the word is escaping me, but they're going to be more interested in buying from smaller companies, mom and pops, because they're looking for an experience along with the product or service. So it's like customer service, and you'll get that more with a smaller, business or an entrepreneur versus like some big old company. So people are looking for more experience.
That's really interesting, because I with makeup, because I'm not a big makeup person, but I don't like anything with animal products.
Right.
Or actually, I'm going to say I use some products from India that use cow's milk, and I emailed them, and they're because in India cows are sacred.
Yeah, they are.
So it's real.
Oh yeah.
That's the only one, but the no testing is being all over the world now.
Yeah.
And you cannot trust L'Oreal, who keeps buying up other companies.
Oh really?
But these small ones, there's like this company I'm going to try and get them to advertise called Big Red Apple Lipstick.
Oh wow.
It's very small. They're the best product ever, and I trust them.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, exactly. Like you're getting some sort of experience, some value added, some emotional attachment to it.
And now that everybody's about surveys, I feel like if I put up that survey, they're happier. So
that's why I feel like with small business and all that, just people are just going to be more receptive to it. Also, like AI is going to like. Really, really, I mean, we're already there, but it's like going to be even like tenfold. And we're going to see them more, it feels to me like in people's homes. So there might be some sort of like, I don't know if you want to call it evening out or more, just more general use instead of it being like so expensive and so out of reach. I feel like it just they might start making more common products for the house. So, I mean, I guess we've already kind of seen that with like Siri and all the other ones, but there's going to be more options.
You know what's funny? Everybody needs to see. There's a show on. It's called Years and Years on HBO, and Emma Thompson's in it, and it's a very political show.
Okay,
but it goes into the future, and one of the girls, just like on Snapchat, she has a mask that's now in real life, and they go into the things like she wants her eyeball. The eyeball turns into a camera. They turn the eyeball into, and what could go wrong? And it's fascinating.
Wow.
And you watch it and you go, "That's all coming."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the good news to that is that there will be more of a craving of human contact. So in some ways, if you have, and again, I'm going to go back to this small business of having like that personal experience. That's also like, you know, we can piggyback on that, why these small businesses are going to do well, because there's that personal human contact that we humans still need.
I know.
So that's going to happen there. And last thing was like, we're going to start to see more and more kinds of like, this is relationship oriented, like with sexual identities. There's going to be even more that are going to come out. There's so many now and it gets super confusing. But I mean, we're in this process of breaking the norms and the traditions. But what's going to happen is like, even more so, it's going to be way more in your face and way more upfront and personal with people. And it's happening because, if humans can't accept other humans, how are beings from other planets or other creatures or anything like that, how are they going to be accepted here? So this is like part of this evolution and part of a process. So we might see more.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, like, yeah, because can you imagine like some like 8-foot tall alien, you know, however you envision an alien just walking down the street. Like, we can't accept other humans. How are we going to accept that?
And I don't want to point out all Christians, but there's a heavy Christian sect that is the loudest, that represents very few.
Yeah.
That is so.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. They'll see all of that as demons.
Yeah. And I do think that there's going to be more sexual harassment and more bullying. It's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately. And really what it is it's to show people where healing needs to happen, which is acceptance and being different. And it's like the human blueprint to fear something that's different. It sets off the nervous system, and that's our initial reaction. So we go into survival mode. Well, I'm sorry, but just because somebody else, you know, has a different sexual identity than I am doesn't mean I'm better or they're better than me or anything like that. But when you're scared because it's different and you don't know and you don't have the experience, so I do think that there's going to be more of that, unfortunately.
You know, I don't think we learned a lesson here that we were supposed to.
Oh, I think we're still being forced to learn it.
We could have learned it and been over this, and we didn't.
No, you're right. And that's why it's going to be so in our face until we get it.
And I hate to say this, but and you know, my listeners know where I stand. I think Trump's going to win, and I've never felt like that before. I felt like we didn't get it. And I still think we're going to, I think we're going to have a little tiny civil war. I think people are going to go to arms on this. And
well, I mean, one of the things I can definitely say is the reason why Trump is here is to show the U.S. where it needs to get its shit together.
Yes.
That is the reason for Trump. That is a much bigger reason than a political reason. So when people get into the tiny little nitpickiness of the politics, I really want to say, fuck you, there's a much bigger picture here. Yeah. And some of the stuff he's showing us is actually good for us. Mm-hmm. But that means we got to work on it.
Right.
You know?
It's showing it's mirroring what our country became.
Yeah.
I have a new joke about, you know, how nobody, I'm not, it's just talking about how we all have a God that we think our God is right, which is kind of how it should be, because no one wants to, you wouldn't go to a church where you go, what's your God like? And the guy goes, very insecure, actually. He walks away in the middle of a conversation, you know, but it's that sureness that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're also sure.
Yeah.
And I really feel like it's all, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's all ego. So, so Miss Karen, that's all I got. That's everything.
That's excellent. I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
Terrie.
Yeah.
And you're right on time.
Oh.
So Miss Terrie,
Yes.
tell everyone where they can find you.
Sure.
And where I'll be going for my next reading.
So you can catch me on Facebook and Instagram at Intuitive Coach Terrie. And then I have my website, terriehuberman.com.
And sign up for your emails are great.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I do have a
Great.
mailing list. If you go to my website, you can sign up from there.
And then they can find out when your podcast is coming out.
Yes, because my podcast is coming out for sure in 2020. And Karen has so graciously been one of my guests. So I'm so excited.
You can't stop me from talking.
Yes. What I
And it's going to
love.
be called The Portal with Terrie.
The Portal with Terrie Huberman.
All
Yes,
right.
thank you.
Terrie. We all live busy lives. In fact, when I'm not podcasting, ghost hunting, performing stand-up comedy, or reading tarot for my clients, I'm trying to catch my breath and de-stress. All that on the go can really play havoc with your sleep and impact your health. That's why I'm so crazy about the relaxing benefits of CBD oil. But I care about what I put into my body, so I only look for the best. And that's how I found Zion Medicinals. The company was founded by Brian Caruso, who sought a natural pharmacy-grade solution for his wife's pain and insomnia. Zion Medicinals sources high-quality, healthcare-grade, premium hemp oil direct from an organic farm in Colorado, so you consistently get the best product every single time. The oils are full spectrum too, not CBD isolate, which means that every bottle contains all of the plant's naturally occurring compounds, including cannabinoids, flavonoids, and oils for a superior product. Every bottle is third-party tested to ensure it's pure and potent too. To get your Zen with Zion, check them out online at zionmedicinals.com. Tell them I sent you and use coupon code Karen20 for 20% off your first order. That's capital K, small AREN 20. Tell them Karen sent you. All right, everybody. You know my next guest from my series April readings. She is a fantastic psychic, clairvoyant, all kinds of things. In fact, April, they're probably hearing your ad on this podcast as well. So you know she's one of my favorites. April from April Readings is here. How are you, dear?
I'm good. You're one of my favorites.
Oh, it's a love fest. It's a love fest. Can you tell that we hang out all the time?
Yes.
So, April, what do you see coming in 2020?
Okay, so the first time I did this was last year in the backseat of your car after a comedy show. And I did not know how other people did it. I did not prepare it. I just did it on the fly. So that's what I'm going to do today.
Great. That was the most successful. That's how I find it. It's the best.
I like that. And also, I do want to note that all year I've been wondering about my prediction that Trump's status would change in June.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't explain how or what, or I didn't want to predict impeachment or anything like that. But I did see that the change would occur in June. And after that, things would be altered forever for him. And what I now know in hindsight is that June is when the Ukraine call happened.
And you know what, folks? Just so you know, we're taping this in December. So if it's something crazy could have happened between this taping and going, but you're exactly right on that. That is,
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's just the timing of the events. And, I thought, well, but did he change or did anything? Didn't seem like anything changed. And now we've spent, several months watching the process unfold and reveal what was actually happening in June, which is pivotal. It is game changing. So without steering it in any direction, I'm not talking about preferences. I'm just talking about the facts of events that occurred. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And you know what? Well, I don't know. Do you want me to ask questions? I'm just going to let you go, and then
Sure.
Okay. How do you feel about Trump winning the next election? Yes or no?
I do feel like he has a strong chance.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a lot to do with the sort of 1%, the powers that be, people who are in power and willing to levy what they have in favor of maintaining it. But there are large numbers that are representing vitality and energy and a spirit of humanitarian sort of compassion and also environmental concern. There's a lot of scientific information that's been sort of cut off or suppressed. And so there's just this massive rectification that's happening, and we're already in it, obviously. And he, again, I said this last year and I'll say it again, he's not the reason for everything. He is sort of like the catalyst, the moment. He's the face of it. Right. But he is not the cause of it. He is part of a much larger scale event. And we're in the midst of, and this isn't an astrology thing, but I do reference astrology in my readings. And we have been going through a Saturn-Pluto event, which perfects itself on January 12th. So we're all sort of, just staying rooted into the ground and being prepared for anything that may come at that time. But whatever the process is, we are in it already. Yeah. So there's nothing to fear. The world has had many revolutions. In terms of whether he's going to win or not, I really am hesitant to say, because I believe in the power of people expressing themselves. And I do honestly feel that there are forces that are trying to suppress individual voices, and that cannot succeed. Individual voices are too important to be suppressed forever or for very long.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think it's a fluid situation. I am leaning towards him winning, which makes me wrong all the way up to this point, because I was always thinking he's not going to be around this long. But I'm leaning towards him winning. But I am also thinking whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen no matter who's sitting there. And that is going to be transformational for the country.
Yeah, I mean, we have already crossed the point of no return. And what that means for in my interpretation is that it doesn't matter who the president is right now. Mm-hmm. It matters that now American citizens understand that we are responsible for our country, and what happens with it cannot simply be left to the devices of politicians or people who claim not to be politicians and then take up office. And that we need to get involved in what we think is important and be responsible for it, whether it's money or healthcare or the environment or, humanitarian issues, refugees, the quality of care, prisons, guns, like all of it. So many people got involved this year that never, ever, if you'd asked them before, would never have wanted to touch any of these things with a 10-foot pole. Right. So there's I think there's a positive effect that has occurred. Unfortunately, it does come with a high price.
Yeah, I'm not freaked out by if he wins. I think I know that change is coming anyways. All right, keep going.
Yeah. I think that, but this is actually a perfect segue, because I do think that that's one of the epiphanies that we all have access to now, is the knowledge that it's not, it's sort of a lazy thought that who's the president dictates the way everything goes. Mm-hmm. It's a very disempowered thought. And so what I see is that people have the opportunity to gain personal power and collective influence. And that's gauged on participation and also spiritual values, whether or not they're practicing. And a lot of people got into practice this year. Right. And hypocrisy has been really exposed. So what I see is a lot more division in the form of people taking positions, people sort of like picking their teams. Unfortunately, I see that continuing, but I also see that love as a value is being heightened by its absence. Yeah. And that a lot of people who have been disconnected from their hearts are being challenged to kind of shit or get off the pot, like get with the program. Mm-hmm. Or make sacrifices and find out what the consequences are for that, because you don't get to take your money with you when you die.
Yeah, you know what else I keep seeing, especially with my tarot readings, is people are making the break now. Their marriage is done. Their change is everybody's life is very pivotal right now. There's very few that everybody's making some sort of change.
Yeah, it's sort of like, the challenge is also the question of, do you believe that life means anything, or that it is something that goes on beyond your physical death? Because how you would operate based on those two different points of view could be very different.
Right.
So I see that. That's more like the political collective matter. Also, something else that I mentioned last year was about the Me Too movement and the feminist movement, how it was going to grow, but that there was going to be some sort of reconciliation beginning to happen with the sort of excess of it, how sometimes, that there's a way to include men in the conversation and create like a greater participation in the event. And so I got really more deeply into conversations with people like Esther Perel, who is this family therapist who was a child of Holocaust survivors, who really, her husband works with immigrants and refugees and traumatized people. And she has been speaking in a revolutionary way about marriage and sex and relationships and, monogamy and cheating and all of those things. And that conversation has really also become really big this year in our culture, because people are thirsty for understanding and knowledge and breakthroughs, and they want to get out of their box that they live in. Old beliefs, old thought forms.
Yeah, Joe Dispenza has been around for years. He is exploding right now.
Yeah,
as should be.
Well, he was in the movie The Secret, which we all make jokes about, but there is something to the law of attraction. But he's also a chiropractor, which I come from a long line of chiropractors, and that is characteristic of the thinking of holistic type, healers, doctors, and practitioners.
Right.
He's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I see is that we are now taking up we're actually like getting to building a shape around this thing, and we've had a lot of breakthroughs. And so in terms of like the progress made for women this year, just to follow up on that, I feel like there's more equality. We are actually in one of the best times ever for women in terms of equality, and there's a long, long, long way to go. But what we're looking for is, how does it benefit everyone? How does society benefit from these breakthroughs? Not just, how can we, do better, but how can we all thrive?
And I see a lot more women supporting women, which is the best.
Yeah. And ultimately the goal of feminism round one is equality. It wasn't against men, and it wasn't, you know what I mean? It was like, so there's all these different generations of feminism and the beliefs that come with it. So that language is starting to get a little bit more, it's kind of being hashed out. And last year, not 2019, but 2018 was a little bit raw. It was a lot of slogans. It was a lot of, pink hats and sweaters, and, it was like marketing materials and merch. It was a merch movement, know, and in some ways, but, so progress is really being made. And the biggest mark of progress is that women now are seated at the table and making decisions and collaborating with men. And more of that is going to continue. In fact, I feel like that's a wave that cannot be stopped.
Yeah, I do too. And you know what else? I feel like the millennials, it's natural to them. In fact, a friend of mine was telling me about his son was invited to one of these all-male exclusive clubs, and he was so uncomfortable. The son was like, why would I ever want to go to this place? Like, it was, and when I say all-male exclusive, I'm sure they had strippers, but I know that the millennials are going to be like, I don't care, whatever. I hate how much the millennials get bashed. Okay, enough with me. Keep going.
Yeah, millennials they have so much to offer, and they're not competing with so many of the same oppressive ideas that Generation Y and the Boomers have in their minds. So we should be listening to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So let me see what else. I feel like there's some kind of electricity is a story. So it feels like terrorism, if we do have it, sorry to get to a dark topic,
Nope.
but if we experience terrorism, it's going to be more digital than ever before
Mm-hmm.
because that is our vulnerability. We all depend on digital technology and cyber technology. And it feels like that is a space which has not been adequately protected because of our dependency on the conveniences that it provides.
Right.
And how we have allowed that to replace, for example, do you know your best friend's phone number? You know,
Right.
do you know your mother's phone number if she's changed it in the last, 20 years? So we are going to have a new epiphany, so to speak, a new level of like reminder that we have talents and skills and capabilities that we're not using. And you're not going to get rid of certain things, even with all the technology in the world. We still have, there's a purpose for us to like walk with our own feet and have human interaction and look each other in the eye, and there's certain things that just the substitutes aren't better than the real thing.
And if anyone wants, oh my goodness, what's that?
Oh.
They're coming to take me away.
Oh, here it comes. You're right, it's here.
I know. I'm with you on that about we got to watch the grid or we're going to be in trouble. And also, anybody, just to note, there's a fantastic HBO series called Years and Years, and it's very political.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I know, but they show there's an example of where automation, which is happening with humans, half automation. There's some stuff in Japan that you'll hear me read on a different episode that watch it and see how uncomfortable it is.
I second that motion. It's a fantastic show, and it's so pioneering in its like vision of what could happen.
Yes.
It's like all these TV shows are like 1984 now. But also, what was I going to say? The fire engine sort of threw me.
I know. That's the Matrix. That's the thing when we get right. The Matrix tries to throw in a wrench in the machine when we're talking about stuff that's right on.
Yeah. There's a lot more that I see, but I really feel like people are being challenged individually to choose the high road, to honor their bodies, to take better care of themselves and those that they love or their neighbors, even if they don't love them, because we're starting to recognize that we aren't separate from other people. And, it's like everything's kind of closing in. Like if you live in Los Angeles, like we do, there's a homelessness issue and people are sleeping on the streets in ways that have never been like that before here. And you can't ignore it. You can't pretend that it's not related somehow, that you're not somehow connected or have an influence. And likewise, there's countless examples of that, but this is a positive thing because it's inspiring people to act and be conscious and, all of that. And also to take up space, it's like if you're in the lucky position of having space or having freedom or having mobility or good health, and you can use it and you can express yourself and you have a voice and you have some education or you could read, to sit on it, which is what, our capitalist, wealthy American society in some ways has ignored or just taken for granted. Just compare us to, people in second and third worlds where they have to struggle to get education, and they really value it. So self-expression is being highlighted, and that's probably my favorite thing. Because for me, it expresses itself in the arts and through all the psychic stuff. But we still have the freedom to do that. And that's the greatest way to celebrate democracy.
And also, the world the world has had it. And I keep saying this was our time to work out our karma. Now the world is coming forward. And if you look at what's going on in Hong Kong, talk about people fighting for their rights. And it's a David and Goliath story. And I hope they win.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it's like everywhere you turn, people are fighting for freedom, whether it's women in Saudi Arabia fighting for the right to drive, or the right to travel out of the country without their husband's permission, or, women in India fighting in the face of the risk of their own death, like the woman who was burned on her way to, I believe she was burned on the way to the courthouse to testify against men who gang raped her. Ugh. Or the, people in the Far East fighting for democracy.
Baghdad, people of Baghdad are fighting for just not to get shot.
Yeah, I mean, we could just go all over the world. And we need, as Americans, we really should be looking outside of our bubble. Mm-hmm. There's this great film that's winning tons of awards right now. It's called Parasite, and it's a Korean film that lots of people will see over the holidays. And it probably will be in the Academy Awards lineup. And it's foreign. It's got subtitles and everything. But, it's such an illuminating film because it shows us the perspective about the class division from another point of view that it's instructive. Right. It's not on the other side of the fence. We're human, they're human, and these things have happened all over the world. So we should pay attention.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, my friend, or you have to run?
Anything else? No. I'm good. Let me just look. Give me a second.
Okay, take your time.
You can cut out the silence if you want. I feel like more children are going to rise up and appear as heroes that win prizes like Nobel Peace Prize. I feel like children are starting to emerge as a wise generation, and they are teaching us and leading us and humbling us about our waste. Yeah. And so Greta Thunberg is obviously one, and Malala was another. And there's so many children and the kids of the Parkland shooting, who've done all the gun control lobbying. Yep. They really are showing the way. And so, if anything, I would just say that we all would be wise to practice listening to young people, and because they're intelligent and they have answers and solutions that we could miss if we stay in our heads and we don't use our hearts and our intuition and our mind.
They're protecting the world that they're going to inherit.
Right. Which, I mean, that's just practical, right? It's like,
but I didn't do that. I had you know what I mean? I don't remember another generation being that alert at that young of an age.
Oh, no. I mean, it's this perception that children are small people with small minds, or that they cannot think rigorously through these questions and issues. But what they're doing is they're cutting through the sort of bog of complication that adults create out of greed or out of procrastination or just, politics. Mm-hmm. And this is on every level. It's not just political. It has to do with matters of the heart. So parents of children who, unhappy couples can listen to their children and open up to learn from them. Right. I feel like there's a young generation, particularly those who are adolescent right now. So if your children or children are between the ages of 9 and 13, I would watch these people. Mm-hmm. Because in the future, and I don't mean now, but I believe that in the near future, they're going to pioneer discoveries about sound and the way that sound is going to play a role in protecting and defending life.
Wow, that's interesting.
And that it would be used to travel and to protect. I can't say too much more about it. I've been seeing this for a long time, but I do believe that there's a different, and I'm sure there's words for this in this sort of new age world, but I don't know what those words are, to characterize the way that these people, these younger people, understand physics and understand science and understand possibility and are not bogged down by privilege.
Right.
Because we have destroyed the environment that they have inherited.
All right. And first of all, April, great job. And one final question for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
What's going to happen to the Paranormal Karen podcast?
Paranormal Karen podcast has really tightened up this year. I feel it's both fun and funny and enlightening, and it's also really educational and illuminating. And the guests that you attract and interview and share, it's like you are this world traveler and you bring these people through, and I see it continuing and just like going deep, and I feel like it's going to be deeper and more funny. Not that you're not funny enough, because you're really funny. I could just sit and laugh with you.
Well, no, you're right. I had to learn how to podcast, and I had to learn how to do it on my own. And I think it's going better. And you're absolutely right. Already the guests I have lined up are phenomenal.
Yeah, it's like a directory of underground expertise and subculture and cosmic practitioners and shamans, and who doesn't want to know about all of that?
And that's why you're included in that group. Yay! All right, April, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Two easiest places are on Instagram at April Readings, or my website, www.aprilreadings.com. And you can book there. You can hear Paranormal Karen interviews and conversations with April. You can read about me, and it's simple and easy and fun. So get a reading.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, honey.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Happy New Year.
Psychic medium and buddy of mine, Terrie Huberman, is with me today. Terrie, you've given me so many great readings and healings, and now you've got everything together in one package. Tell me about that.
I sure do. So this package has energy healings, readings, and coaching.
Coaching, that's the best. And people, they buy the package. You give them coaching once a week?
Yeah, so we meet online once a week, and in between there's support as well.
And who would this be for?
This is really for folks who are in indecision, needing to get into their intuition because they're blocked or stuck. They need to move forward. And so we explore what the root causes of the problems are.
And helps them get out of their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific. And what can they expect from this?
Sure. So moving from anxiousness to confidence, accessing their freedom, joy, and security, and really being in alignment with themselves so they have that clear direction, so they know, aha, this is what I need to do next to reach my goals.
So now there's something that's free so people can talk to you and see if this is for them.
Yeah, absolutely. On my website, terriehuberman.com, there is a page where you can click, and it's the intuitive coaching package. And there is a button there that says schedule a free call. So you go ahead, schedule it. We'll get on a call, and you can learn more about this program, and we'll see if this is a good fit for you or not.
See if there's chemistry.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's an odd date.
TerrieHuberman.com, TerrieHuberman. I highly recommend it, folks. Okay, everybody, it's time for my predictions, and wasn't everybody great? I have such nice friends. So my predictions, and a very strange thing I'm going to read you at the end that has never happened to me before, that I think you'll find it interesting. And I'm going to start with my longest prediction, because this was something, as I meditated on 2020, I wrote down, they will find B.D. Cooper. Now, for those, I'm going to read you this whole article because this is very odd. B.D. Cooper hijacked a plane in 1971 with something like $200,000 and was never found. This was back when you could just get on a plane, like you could just run on with a, open bottle and a cigarette in your hand. No one even asked you for your driver's license. So since that was my prediction, I looked up something, and it says, I'm going to read you the whole thing from Encyclopedia Britannica, very short. B.D. Cooper, also known as Dan Cooper, criminal who in 1971 hijacked a commercial plane traveling from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington, and later parachuted out of the aircraft with the ransom money. An extensive manhunt ensued, but the hijacker was never identified or caught, resulting in one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in U.S. history. The name used the alias Dan Cooper, but in the subsequent news report, a reporter misheard the name D.B. Cooper, which became widely used. And they have if you look that up, B.D. Cooper, they have a good sketch of him. On November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, a nondescript man who appeared to be in his mid-40s and about 6 feet tall bought a $20 ticket. Did you hear me? $20 ticket from Northwest Orient Airlines. That's probably why we don't know them anymore if their tickets were $20. Flight 305. He gave his name as Dan Cooper, which later turned out to be fake. Shortly after takeoff from Portland, he handed a note to the flight attendant in which he claimed to have a bomb in his briefcase. He then proceeded to open the attaché case, which contained numerous wires, a red stick, and a battery. Cooper demanded 4 parachutes and $200,000 in $20 bills. That was worth about $1.2 million at that time. After the flight landed in Seattle, Cooper released 36 passengers when authorities provided money and parachutes. However, he forced 2 pilots, a flight engineer, a flight attendant to remain on the plane. After it refueled, he ordered the pilots to fly to Mexico City. Per his instructions, the plane flew over 10,000 feet at a speed slower than 200 knots. Around 8 p.m., while between Seattle and Reno, Nevada, widely believed to be near Ariel, Washington. What? Oh, okay, got it. Cooper lowered the rear steps and jumped out. He then disappeared. The FBI launched what would become one of the longest and most exhaustive investigations in its history, known as NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. Initially, the agency believed that Cooper knew both plane and the area, and it was speculated that he served in the military, possibly as a paratrooper. Later, however, it was decided that he was not an experienced skydiver because the jump was too dangerous, and he failed to notice that his reserve parachute was sewn shut for use in training. The agency, so the people on the plane gave him a bad parachute. Interesting. The agency reported that it looked at some 800 suspects in the first 5 years, with almost all being eliminated. Some were ruled out on the basis of DNA that was eventually recovered from the tie Cooper took off before jumping. One prime suspect was Richard Floyd McCoy, who was arrested for a similar crime several months later. However, he was eliminated as a suspect partly because he did not match the description provided by the 2 flight attendants. So that's kind of the gist of the story. The guy left, B.D. Cooper left in a suit. He was never found. No one knew if he made it. Now, because I was putting this out for you guys, I looked, and Rolling Stone actually had an article where there was a gentleman who claimed that he knew who B.D. Cooper was. And I'll just read you part of this. A team of former FBI investigators is claiming to have proof, and claiming is in big red letters, of the real identity of D.B. Cooper. What they think happened was he was a Vietnam vet, and there was a tape, and they kept, here it is. This was, okay. They said the FBI was stonewalling and covering up, whatever, all this stuff. So this guy was on it. Hold on. I'm scamming this really quick. I'm scanning it really quick. So anyways, they went over tapes, and they believe that they heard, that where they thought it was B.D. Cooper, they said, they thought he was saying, I am Cooper, but they have a tape now that says, I can't find it. All right. Well, here's the gist of what I'm doing. How good is my reporting? I'm just going to give up in the middle of this and tell you, I don't think they found him then. This year, you will hear, they will find out who B.D. Cooper was. For some of you that watched Mad Men, they believe that the character of Don Draper was actually supposed to be B.D. Cooper. It was kind of based on him. So that's what they were hoping, but it never came up in the show. They were hoping that's who he was going to turn out to be, this guy with all this money. So there is the Rolling Stone article, if you want to read more about that gets very technical. But they said they updated it, and believe me, claiming is in big red letters. So we will either get affirmation about B.D. Cooper, or we will find out who he really is this year. That was an oddball that came up right away when I was meditating. Okay, moving right along. No more reading, I know. I think this year we're going to see a lot of bombshells pass. And that could be ladies from the 50s, 60s, 70s. But for some reason, I feel like it's going to be pretty ladies passing. They might be older and ready to go. So, well, that won't be sad. The cities I'm a little bit worried about, and this is not a big deal, but, and this is in January, so hopefully I'm wrong and this will be over in February, but a whole bunch of us and astrologers are very nervous about February. Other cities that I'm worried about, not in February particularly, is Chicago and Buffalo. Those two cities came up, and I just kind of feel like be alert, or we may hear bad news coming out of those cities. Okay. Curtains up. Secrets revealed. Everywhere. Everyone. All of us. You got a secret? Call me. I'll put it on the podcast so that it's out there. Curtains up. That's all I'm saying. I think there's going to be big breakthroughs in vibrational and sound therapy, and it's about time. I think you're going to hear about that on the evening news, but I do think it's time. It should come front and center next year. Here's a weird one. 70s feathered hair will be back. Okay. Another thing, and I think this is a little bit political, I think the disabled community, and what I mean by that are people in wheelchairs or the blind or anybody with that sort of a disability, I think we're going to hear a lot from them this year, whether it's protesting, whether it's political choices, whether it's on the news, whether it's changes that they're helping us make in society. But I feel like that's going to be on the forefront, and good for them. The other thing about this year, and even though I'm kind of worried that things are going to unravel, okay? I think we all know politically things have to unravel at some point because it's getting weird. But I think when 9/11 hit us, it felt personal because we had never seen anything like that before. I think sometimes when these things happen, in the future, we're going to be a little pulled back from it. And I don't mean not feeling it, but it won't feel as intense as 9/11 did. We'll be a little more ready. And our reflections this year are not going to be, who are we? It's going to turn into, who am I? What am I doing for the world? Okay. Now, who are we? Did we do this wrong? It's kind of like, I've always liked that analogy that, human souls are like a beach and we're each one grain of sand. And that's really all we can be responsible. So don't you want to make your grain of sand beautiful? So everybody make your grain of sand beautiful. Okay. I think Trump is going to win. And I'm not a Trumpy, and I've been wrong on this every time because I thought he wouldn't make it this far. I think he's going to win. For whatever reason, the universe needs everything to come to a head. That's how it's going to happen. There's going to be odd breakthroughs for replacement parts in humans. Okay. That could fall along the bionic thing. I know that's already going on, but like I said, when I say something that kind of seems like this is coming up, I feel like it's going to take front and center, like in a way that we never had it before, where it's really talked about all the time. Here are my last few. Edward Snowden. I do not know how Edward Snowden is still alive. I actually like Edward Snowden. I'd like to do a whole show on who he is and what he's done. But I think this year he will be much more available to us. We will hear more from him. And I think he's going to gain back respect. And I think he's going to become a big player in the future of the world. I like to hear Edward Snowden when people can get an interview of him. Lastly, weather. It's been hurricanes this year. I think tornadoes are going to be the big talk next year. Tornadoes, lots of tornadoes, probably even in places where we weren't expecting them. So now here's the weird thing. So I do my writing, my 3 pages of writing every morning. And sometimes they're just to get stuff off my mind. Sometimes they're automatic writing. What do I need to know today? So I was doing my writing and a name popped up. And it was spelled D-R-U-S-T. Drust. And I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I could not figure out what that was, because that's not a word I know. So I looked a little bit on the internet, and the only thing I could find was he was a Scottish king from 790. Yeah, 790. Doesn't even have a 1 in front of it. So I sat down and did my meditation, and I think I channeled this guy, okay? And if we have anyone that listens in Scotland, anything you can tell me about him, because this keeps getting weirder. So this is what he told me, and this is what I wrote down. I want everyone to know that it has begun, and you need to know that everyone must be ready to fight this war with love. Learn to coddle the enemy. It is time to leave. Love is your war. You must learn to treat your enemies with love. And then he showed me a picture, and I heard, give them the finest food and doctors, and ask them to join you, and take in those that say yes. That's it. Love is your war. Okay? And I don't know where that came from. And I tried to do more investigation on this dress. And all I could find was a saying after I wrote this. And he was the king of 100, I think it was 100 years, 100 wars. Or something like that. I don't know if this is a bad guy or a good guy or what, but that was a very odd message for me after getting that name. So hopefully someone knows Scottish history and can tell me if he was a good guy or a bad guy. But I thought that's a very interesting message, and I could see very clearly people that were captured, and we were feeding them fabulous food and taking care of them and wanting them to become us, not to hate us. And some stayed and some went. So, what do you think of that? Channeling an old Scottish king. Who knew? All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This year is going to be great. I already have guests lined up. I'm thrilled. Right out the gate, we're starting with Diet. So much good stuff. Thanks for coming back. If you can leave me a review anywhere, I hope to see you in Vegas at Brad Garrett's. I have a couple of other dates coming up. I can't remember. Welcome back. Let's have a great 2020. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media, and we'll see you next week.